You've probably heard of people becoming millionaires overnight after letting their computer mine Bitcoin, and you thought to yourself, well, that's a business for me, brother. The truth is, things are more complicated than that, and in today's video, we'll talk about the different methods that you can make money by running the blockchain ledger, and the differences between major cryptocurrencies and the systems they use. So stick to the end of the video if you want to find out how people make money by just using their computer. First of all, we need to establish the differences between mining and staking. The difference depends on the consensus mechanism that a blockchain uses. If the blockchain uses a proof of work consensus mechanism like Bitcoin for example, people who run the ledger are called miners, and the process through which you can become a miner is by using your computer's processing power to validate blocks in the blockchain. If the blockchain uses a proof of stake consensus mechanism, on the other hand, people who run the ledger are called validators, and the process through which you can become a validator is called staking. The biggest cryptocurrency which uses staking is Ethereum, as they have just transitioned from the original proof of work system, and if you want to find out more on that, you can check out this video when you finish this one. Now that you know the difference between the two major ways of running the blockchain ledger, let's get into a little bit of detail about each of them. Proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin use miners for maintaining the ledger. Miners are actually computers, not people, which use a lot of processing power to solve a mathematical equation, and win their place as the one that gets to write down the transaction in the ledger. Now obviously every miner is owned by someone, and every time a miner writes down a transaction, it is rewarded with a small amount of Bitcoin which goes to the owner's wallet address. This is essentially how people managed to make money and gain fortunes by becoming Bitcoin miners back in the day, but now it's become practically impossible for a random individual to make money by helping maintain the Bitcoin ledger, and I'll tell you why. Because mining Bitcoin was such a profitable business, some people thought of buying multiple units and start a proper company that mines Bitcoin for a profit. Over time, these mining companies grew bigger and bigger, and computers used for mining actually became units designed specifically for harnessing computing power to solve the required mathematical problems needed to gain their place for writing down transactions, so joining the miners network became harder and harder for random people who wanted to use their laptop for making some money. This way of maintaining the ledger raised a lot of controversies though, because of the huge amounts of electricity consumed by the tens of thousands of miners around the world, and the majority of altcoins use other types of consensus mechanisms for validating transactions. However, proof of work and mining offer an insane amount of security, and the Bitcoin network for example is practically impossible to break, but let's also take a look at the alternative. Proof of stake blockchains use a consensus mechanism that relies on validators to confirm and write down transactions in the ledger. Contrary to the miners in the proof of work mechanism, these validators do not need to use computing power to be chosen, but need to offer something in return for their place as validators. People who want to become validators in a proof of stake ecosystem need to own a certain amount of the native token of that blockchain that they can lock as collateral by staking them. Therefore, staking refers to the process of locking up your coins in exchange for becoming a validator, so the equivalent of miners in proof of stake ecosystems. This system may seem like a more fair approach to decentralization, as it offers anybody the chance of becoming a validator and maintaining the ledger, but actually it's kind of the opposite. Because you need to own a substantial quantity of native tokens that you can stake, few people can afford to become validators for major blockchains, since as a random guy you probably can't afford to buy such large quantities of crypto. Different blockchains use different algorithms for selecting which validators will confirm transactions, and other details change as well from ecosystem to ecosystem, so there isn't any standard proof of stake model. Ethereum for example requires 32 Ethereum to be staked before a user can become a validator. At the current rate of exchange, that's around $32,000, so not everybody would be able to meet the requirement if they wanted to become a validator. Blocks are validated by more than one validator, and when a specific number of the validators verify that the block is accurate, it is finalized and closed. Like I mentioned earlier, different proof of stake mechanisms may use various methods to reach a consensus. For example, when Ethereum introduces sharding, a validator will verify the transactions and add them to a shard block, which requires at least 128 validators on a committee. Once shards are validated and a block is created, 2/3 of the validators must agree that the transaction is valid, then the block is closed. Alright, but why would you actually want to stake your tokens and become a validator? Bitcoin miners get rewarded for participating in the maintenance of the ledger, so do you get anything for helping run a proof of stake ledger? Obviously yes, otherwise nobody would do it. Let's look at Ethereum and what it gives its validators. You may earn yield on any Ethereum that you stake as a reward for helping secure the network. Ethereum staking rewards are given in accordance to how much Ethereum is validated and what rewards the network is offering over a time period. The protocol rewards will be larger as an incentive for more Ethereum to come online. As an increasing amount of Ethereum is staked, the reward is reduced. Now that you've got an idea of what mining and staking mean, you can probably make the connections yourself and see which one would be the most profitable for you if you're looking to become a validator and start earning money by helping run a blockchain. Many of the blockchains out there use the proof of work consensus mechanism, while even more use proof of stake, but there's also a handful of projects that use their own variations of one of the mechanisms, or just a completely different one. Solana for example uses something called proof of history, an original creation of the blockchain's founders, and mixes it up with proof of stake to come up with a hybrid consensus mechanism. Because they still need validators to complete their part, you can stake Solana and join the network of validators, gaining rewards for that as I mentioned before. If you want to know more about it though, along with everything else that's going on with Solana and their ecosystem, you should go watch our video on that next.